Alright, now that you've properly labeled your graph, it might be helpful to perform some data analysis. If you're trying to find a line of best fit, right-click on one of the data points and select Add Trend Line. Since we're working with a linear graph, you want to make sure that the linear option is selected on the right. And depending how far you're trying to take this analysis, you can also choose to display the equation of your line by clicking here, and also the r-squared value. So this equation and r-squared value is meant for this orange line. So I'm just going to move it right there so everything is clear. I'm going to move this key section out of the way too. Let's do the same thing for the other two sections. This graph is really starting to look close to its finished product. One last thing I want to go over before I start talking about scatter plots is adjusting the axis intervals. As you can see, Excel has algorithmically computed what it considers the best interval for its y-axis that increases steadily in intervals of 50. But let's say I want to plot the graph in intervals of 30 instead of 50. And I also want to cap the graph at 210 instead of 250. Well, I right-click on the axis I'm trying to change and go to Format Axis, which will pop open a bunch of options on the right here for you. I can then select the minimum to 0 because I really don't want this negative 50 right here, and the maximum to 210. And since I want to increase in increments of 30 instead of 50, I'll set the major units to 30. And as you can see, the intervals of the y-axis have changed. Now the great thing about the Excel skills you've learned for a line graph so far is that they can also be applied to any graph you make on Excel. So another commonly used graph is the scatter plot. Scatter plots are extremely useful when you try to compare and contrast numerical value data, specifically when you're trying to see if there's a correlation between two sets of data. So here I've taken a list from the Microsoft Office blog if you're still a bit confused about which one to use. So feel free to pause the video to read and compare a line graph and a scatter plot and its many uses.